How long does it take to read the longest word in the world? Where is the underwater male located? How long can a chicken fly? And how are koalas similar to us? I don't think the answers to these questions will actually benefit you, but they'll sure surprise you. This is Infinity, and 10 minutes of useless but interesting facts that'll blow your mind. Let's go. If you flick yourself on the nipple, it becomes hard for 7 seconds. This is a reflex response that evolved during human evolution. When an infant touches its mother's nipple, it hardens, making breastfeeding easier. The same mechanism is triggered when the nipple is flicked. So did you flick it? Did it all work? Then you can experiment with your body a little more. For example, in terms of distance and length. The distance from the bend of your elbow to your wrist is the length of your foot, and if that same distance is multiplied by 4, you get the length of your step. When eating celery, a person wastes more calories than they receive. Celery is one of the few foods with minus calories. It takes 2 to 3 times as much energy to digest as it does to consume, so it's worth adding to any weight loss diet plan. In 1998, an inventor from South Africa, together with BMW, developed an unusual method of protecting cars from theft. The fire anti-theft system was a response to the car thefts that were flooding the country and caused a large number of casualties among the population. The device, called the blaster, was triggered by a foot pedal. If the driver was attacked by criminals, they could simply press the pedal and the fire would catch the hijackers even a few meters away. The method was brutal, but perfectly legal. However, the blaster was discontinued in 2001 because of its high cost. The polar bear is dangerous, even if it's no longer alive. If a person eats a polar bear's liver, they're likely to die. This is because the daily norm of vitamin A for humans is 800 to 900 micrograms, and a total of 100 grams of liver contains 400,000 micrograms of vitamin A. Everyone knows the city of Bangkok, but did you know that officially it's called something else? It goes like this. It's translated as City of Angels, Great City of Immortals, Magnificent City of the Nine Gems, Seat of the King, Seat of Royal Palaces, Home of Gods Incarnate, erected by Vishvakarman at Indra's behest. It's not surprising that a city with such a name even got it into the Guinness Book of World Records. Do you think it's a long title? No, it isn't. Compared to the formula of the protein Titan, it's nothing. This formula is the longest word in any language of the world. The English version contains more than 189,000 letters and would take more than 3 hours to pronounce it. Write the comments if you want such a video. George Dantzig, an American mathematician, was once a university student who was late for class and mistook the equations written on the board for homework. It seemed more difficult than usual, but a few days later he was able to complete it. It turned out that he had solved 2 unsolvable problems in statistics that many scientists were struggling with. Dantzig himself became one of the greatest mathematicians of all time and the founder of linear programming. Before 1887, all sprinters stood at the start line at full height, waiting for the command to start running. The American sprinter, Charles Sherrill, was a revolutionary sprinter. He'd seen enough of kangaroos who ducked to the ground before moving. Despite the reproaches of the judges and the ridicule of rivals and spectators, Charles immediately won the race, and now all runners begin their sprints with a crouch start. A little more about sports. I think everyone knows Shaquille O'Neal, the big man and basketball legend. During his years in the NBA, he scored about 30,000 points, but he only made 1 three-pointer. Big Shaq attempted just 22 three-pointers from long range because he was so tall and could score from short range more easily. If you fold a sheet of paper 42 times, the height of the pile will reach the moon. 51 folds and the sheet reaches the sun. And if you fold a sheet of paper in half 103 times in a row, the thickness of the pile of paper will exceed the size of the known universe, 93 billion light years. However, you're unlikely to be able to fold the sheet at least 5 or 6 times. Do you think there are too many taxes in your country? There were a lot of taxes in Tibet at the beginning of the 20th century. When Tibet was temporarily independent, money was needed, and the Dalai Lama imposed taxes on everything, including taxes on weddings, on the birth of children, on the right to sing, dance, ring bells, and beat drums. There was even a tax on the ears and nose. In all, there were 2,000 kind of taxes in Tibet. Vitamin A in carrots is important for good eyesight. However, there is no direct connection between eating carrots and good eyesight. The myth of perfect eyesight and carrots began in World War II. The British developed a new radar, allowing pilots to see German bombers at night. To conceal the existence of this technology, the British Air Force distributed publications stating that such vision was the result of the pilot's carrot diet. Many years later, the myth is still believed. The post office is not always located on land. The Bahamas had an underwater post office. Vanuatu still has one. It looks epic. The ancient king Mithridates VI Eupator was so afraid of being killed that he drank a small amount of poison every day until he developed immunity to all poisons known to man at the time. When the Romans invaded his domain and defeated him, he tried to poison himself to avoid being captured. But since he was so used to poisons, it didn't work. However, he had a personal servant who, following his orders, stabbed Mithridates with his sword. There are many painful deaths, but the worst is considered by many to be being sucked into an airplane turbine. Write in the comments if you're ready to argue about it. Franz Kafka published only a few works during his lifetime. While seriously ill, he asked his friend Max Brod to burn all of his works, including several unfinished novels, after his death. Brod didn't comply with this request. On the contrary, ensured that Kafka's works were published. As a result, Kafka gained incredible posthumous fame and became one of the key figures of 20th century literature. Sherlock Holmes is associated with deduction, a pipe, a trademark hat, and the saying, "Elementary, my dear Watson." But in the works of Arthur Conan Doyle, this phrase was never specifically mentioned. It was popularized later in films, plays, and radio plays. You know that koalas are Australian animals that love eucalyptus. Now you also know that koala fingerprints are very similar to human fingerprints. Sometimes forensic scientists even mistakenly take them as evidence at crime scenes. If you need to know the time, walking into a casino is not an option. There is no clock in the casino. The windows are closed and shaded, and casinos themselves are open 24 hours a day. This is done so that the customer can't control the time. That way they'll be in the casino longer and therefore leave more money there. Snow is so important to Eskimo that there are about 200 words for it in their language. For example, a poot is snow lying on the ground. Kana is falling snow. Akalakok is gently falling snow. Pignotok is snow convenient for sledges, and so on. All because snow is extremely important to these northerners and is a permanent factor in their natural environment, source of drinking water, as well as building material for the igloos. The expression Balzac's age should not be used to refer to women over the age of 40 or 50. It originated with Balzac's novel, A Woman of 30, and is appropriate for women between 30 and 40 years of age. In the CIS countries, Baltica is considered a rather mediocre beer, but it's not only sold here. The sale of Baltica, for example, began in the UK in 2003, where this brand was positioned on the market as a super premium, and it was sold at a price of $6 to $7 per half-liter bottle. It was 15% more expensive than the legendary dark Guinness. In the public libraries of medieval Europe, books were chained to shelves. Such chains were long enough to remove the books from the shelf and read it, but prevented the book from being taken outside the library. This practice was widespread until the 18th century due to the great value of each copy of the book. The smell of wet land that we smell after it rains is the organic substance geosmin, which is produced by cyanobacteria and actinobacteria living on the surface of the land. In 2003, New Zealand issued 50-cent coins with images of the Lord of the Rings characters. Among them are Frodo, Gollum, Aragorn, Sauron, and others. It was time to coincide with the release of the third part of the Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. In the 17th century, the Swedish army had moose troops, but they lasted only until the first battles. Cowardly moose left the battlefield at the first sign of real danger. A few centuries later, in the 1930s, the Soviet Army tried to train moose to solve the problem of the cavalry's passability through the snow of Scandinavia and Finland. Moose were tested and accustomed to the sound of gunfire, but the training wasn't completed in time for the Winter War in 1939, and later it became clear that the cavalry, and especially moose, had no place in modern combat. The Celts, an ancient people of Europe, believed so strongly in the afterlife that they could lend money with the condition that it would be returned in the other world. I wonder if anyone gave the money back. Every year, someone is born in every country. The Vatican was an exception. In 1893, no births were registered in the city-state. We owe the recognizable design of Chupa Chups to Salvador Dali. The great Spanish artist drew an emblem with a daisy, and in a slightly modified form, it's survived to this day. If a statue of a horseman has both front legs raised, it means that the horseman died in battle. If the horse has only one leg raised, it means the horseman died from wounds received in battle. If the horse has all four legs on the ground, then the horseman died a natural death. However, there are inconsistencies. For example, the bronze horseman is depicted with front legs raised, although Peter the Great died of a prolonged illness. Chickens are birds, but they have obvious problems flying. They don't fly long and only fly for short distances. The chicken's maximum flight time was only 13 seconds. Many birds would laugh at the chicken for such skills. That's all, guys. Share in the comments some useless but cool facts that you know. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.